Focus, the Hidden Driver of Excellence, by Daniel Goleman. Introduction. Imagine this. The year is 2008. The air in Beijing is electric. You're in a stadium filled with roaring crowds, and on the track, a young American woman named Lolo Jones is running the race of her life. She's in the 100-meter hurdles at the Olympics, and she's not just winning, she's dominating. Hurdle after hurdle, she glides with a rhythm that seems effortless, a beautiful display of power and grace. The gold medal is just a few strides away. It's hers. The crowd knows it. She knows it. And then, something shifts. It's subtle at first. A tiny thought creeps into her mind. She later said she felt the hurdles were coming at her too fast. And with that single thought, another one followed. Make sure you don't get sloppy. Make sure your legs are snapping out. In that moment, everything changed. Her fluid, automatic grace vanished. She started thinking about what her body already knew how to do. She overtried. She tightened up. And on the 9th hurdle out of 10, she clipped it. Her rhythm shattered. Lolo Jones stumbled across the finish line in 7th place. The gold medal, which was practically in her hands, was gone. She collapsed on the track, heartbroken. What happened? It wasn't a lack of talent. It wasn't a lack of training. It was a failure of something far more fundamental, a hidden force that governs every single thing we do. It was a failure of focus. This is the world that Daniel Goleman, the celebrated author of Emotional Intelligence, invites us to explore in his groundbreaking book, Focus, the Hidden Driver of Excellence. If emotional intelligence taught us what the essential skills for a successful life are, then focus teaches us how to build them. This isn't just a book about paying attention. It's a deep dive into the very architecture of our minds, a journey to understand the subtle, invisible faculty that shapes our reality, determines our relationships, and ultimately, defines our legacy. Goleman promises that by understanding the three kinds of focus, inner, other, and outer, we can unlock a new level of excellence in our own lives. And by the end of our time together today, you will not only understand this hidden driver, but you will also hold the keys to strengthening it, turning distraction into direction and potential into mastery. Book summary. So, let's start with a simple, powerful idea that Goleman borrows from the wise words of Yoda. Your focus is your reality. Whatever you are paying attention to, right now in this moment, is the world you inhabit. Everything else might as well not exist. Think about it. As you listen to my voice, you're probably tuning out the gentle hum of a refrigerator, the feeling of your clothes against your skin, or the faint sounds from outside your window. Your brain is performing a quiet miracle. It's selecting one stream of information, my words, and pushing everything else into the background. This is the essence of what Goleman calls selective attention. He tells the story of a man named John Berger, a house detective in a fancy Manhattan department store. To you or me, the store is a sea of dazzling merchandise and wandering shoppers. But John sees something completely different. His focus is like a spotlight, constantly scanning for the one person out of 50 who isn't there to shop. He's looking for a pickpocket. He ignores the glittering jewelry and the designer scarves. All he sees are the subtle cues, a furtive glance, a body motion that seems out of place. That signal a thief. Just like John the detective, we all have a spotlight of attention. But in today's world, that spotlight is under constant assault. Goleman paints a familiar, and frankly, a slightly worrying picture of our modern lives. He describes a little girl hugging her mother on a ferry, but the mother doesn't even notice. She's completely absorbed in her iPad. He talks about a group of sorority sisters in a van, each one in her own little world, scrolling through their phones in silence. We've all seen it. We've all done it. This is the great irony of our hyperconnected age. We are attuning more to our machines and less to the people right in front of us. The result, Goleman warns, is an impoverishment of attention. Our ability to have a deep conversation, to read the nonverbal cues in a face-to-face chat, to simply be present with another human being, is starting to wither. And it's not just our relationships that are suffering. It's our ability to think, to learn, and to create. Goleman shares the story of an 8th grade teacher who, for years, had her students read the classic book Mythology. They always loved it. But a few years ago, that changed. The students started complaining that the book was too hard, the sentences too complicated. She wondered if their minds, now accustomed to the short, choppy bursts of text messages and social media updates, were losing the ability for deep reading, the sustained concentration needed to immerse yourself in a complex world of ideas. So why is this happening? To understand the battle for our attention, Goleman says we first need to understand the two warring generals inside our own minds. He breaks down the brain's operating system into two fundamental parts, the bottom-up system and the top-down system. Think of the bottom-up system as your brain's autopilot. It's incredibly fast, it's always on, and it runs on emotion, intuition, and habit. It's the part of you that drives a car while you think about your day, the part that makes you instantly turn your head when someone shouts your name in a crowded room. It's ancient, powerful, and reflexive. It operates from the lower, more primitive parts of the brain. The top-down system, on the other hand, is your brain's CEO. It's slower, voluntary, and requires effort. This is the seat of your self-control, your willpower, and your deliberate focus. It's the part of you that chooses to concentrate on a difficult math problem, that resists the urge to eat that second cookie, and that allows you to have a deep, meaningful conversation. It operates from the neocortex, the brain's newest and most advanced region. Every moment of your life is a constant, invisible dance between these two systems. When you're lost in a great movie, your top-down system is voluntarily directing your focus. But when an ad for popcorn suddenly makes your mouth water, your bottom-up system has just hijacked your attention. The problem is, our bottom-up system is easily seduced. It's wired for survival and immediate gratification, for running from tigers and running towards delicious, sugary foods. In the modern world, advertisers and app designers have become masters at manipulating this system. They use emotionally charged images, surprise, and the promise of a quick reward to grab our focus, whether we want them to or not. This is why you feel that almost irresistible urge to check your phone when it buzzes, even when you're in the middle of a conversation. Your bottom-up brain is screaming, "Danger! Opportunity! You must look now!" while your top-down brain is weakly protesting, "This is rude. We should wait." The story of Lolo Jones is the perfect example of this conflict. For most of the race, she was running on her beautifully trained, bottom-up autopilot. Her body knew exactly what to do. But when that tiny thought of getting sloppy entered her mind, her top-down CEO brain took over. It started micromanaging the process, interfering with a system that was working perfectly. And in that crucial moment, the interference caused her to fail. Goleman explains that this is a universal recipe for a screw-up, whether you're an Olympic athlete, a surgeon, or even just trying to relax. The moment you start consciously thinking about a skill you've already mastered, you invite interference from the top-down system, and performance suffers. This is why the best athletes talk about being in the zone. It's a state of flow where the bottom-up system is in complete control, and the chattering, analytical top-down mind is silent. So, if our top-down focus can get in the way, and our bottom-up system is so easily distracted, how do we find the right balance? This brings us to the heart of Goleman's message, the leader's triple focus. He argues that to live a life of excellence, fulfillment, and impact, we need to master three distinct kinds of focus. First, there is inner focus. This is the foundation of everything. It's self-awareness. It's the ability to turn that spotlight of attention inward, to understand our own thoughts, feelings, and values. Without inner focus, Goleman says, we are rudderless. We are easily swayed by our impulses and the opinions of others. He introduces us to the idea of an inner rudder, our gut feelings. These aren't random, mystical sensations. They are real data coming from our body. The brain has a region called the insula, which acts like a map of our internal organs. It monitors our heartbeat, our breathing, and the subtle murmurs of our gut. When you face a big decision, like choosing a career path or deciding whether to trust someone, this system processes all of your life experiences, all the lessons you've learned, many of which you're not even consciously aware of, and delivers its verdict as a feeling. A sense of rightness. Or a knot in your stomach. George Lucas, the creator of Star Wars, is a powerful example of someone guided by this inner rudder. When he made his first hit movie, the studio bosses made a lot of changes he hated. So for his next film, Star Wars, he was offered a standard deal where the studio would finance the movie but keep creative control. Every sensible person in Hollywood told him to take the deal. But his inner rudder told him no. His artistic integrity was more important. He risked everything, putting all his own money into the project, and nearly went broke. But he followed that gut feeling, and in doing so, created one of the most successful franchises in history. Inner focus isn't just about big decisions. It's the key to self-control. Goleman takes us back to a legendary study you may have heard of, the marshmallow test. A researcher would bring a 4-year-old into a room, place a marshmallow in front of them, and say, "You can eat this now. But if you wait until I get back, you can have 2." Some kids gobbled it up instantly. But others managed to wait the full, agonizing 15 minutes. How did they do it? The secret, Goleman reveals, was the strategic allocation of attention. The kids who succeeded didn't just stare at the marshmallow and try to resist. That's a losing battle. Instead, they distracted themselves. They covered their eyes, sang songs, or played pretend. They used their top-down, executive focus to direct their attention away from the tempting, bottom-up lure of the marshmallow. Decades later, researchers tracked down these kids. The results were astonishing. The children who had been able to wait for the second marshmallow went on to have higher test scores, were more successful in their careers, were healthier, and were happier. Their ability to manage their inner world, to control that fundamental battle between impulse and intention, had set a course for their entire lives. Self-control, Goleman concludes, is not just a virtue, it is destiny. This leads us to the second type of focus, other focus. This is empathy. It's the ability to turn our spotlight of attention onto other people, to understand their world from the inside out. Goleman breaks empathy down into a triad, 3 distinct skills. The first is cognitive empathy, the ability to understand another person's perspective. It's being able to see the world through their eyes, to understand how they think. This is the skill of a great negotiator or a great manager, someone who can communicate an idea in a way that truly lands with their audience. The second is emotional empathy, the ability to feel what another person is feeling. This is a bottom-up process. When you see a friend's face light up with joy, or crumple in sadness, your brain's mirror neurons fire, and you literally feel a shadow of their emotion in your own body. This is the basis of rapport, of human connection. It's why we cry at movies and why a mother instinctively feels her baby's distress. Goleman shares a fascinating study where people listened to a gripping story. As they listened, their brain patterns began to perfectly echo the brain patterns of the storyteller. The more in sync their brains became, the better they understood the story. This neural coupling is the very definition of being on the same wavelength. The third type of empathy is empathic concern. This is where empathy turns into compassion. It's not just understanding or feeling with someone, it's caring about them and being moved to help if they are in need. This is the Good Samaritan who stops to help the injured stranger on the road. The problem, again, is our dwindling attention. Goleman argues that as we become more self-absorbed and digitally distracted, our capacity for empathy erodes. He points to a fascinating and troubling line of research on the relationship between power and attention. Studies show that the more powerful and wealthy people become, the less attention they tend to pay to those below them. In experiments, wealthier individuals are worse at reading emotions in other people's faces. They make less eye contact and are more likely to interrupt. It seems that as we become more insulated and less dependent on others, we can afford to be less aware of their needs and feelings. Our other focus dims. He tells the powerful story of a workshop using the theater of the oppressed, where a day laborer named Miguel, who had been cheated out of his wages, reenacted his story. Then, a well-meaning woman from the audience stepped in to play his part, and she acted out how she would have reasoned with the employer and demanded fairness. But for Miguel, an undocumented immigrant, that was an impossible fantasy. Seeing his own powerlessness reflected through the eyes of someone with privilege made him weep. He felt, perhaps for the first time, how truly unseen he was. The powerful often have an empathy blind spot for the reality of the powerless. So, mastering inner focus gives us self-control and wisdom. Mastering other focus gives us connection and compassion. But there is one more level. The third type of focus is outer focus. This is our ability to see the big picture, to understand the larger systems that shape our world. Goleman calls this systems awareness. It's the ability to see the hidden patterns and connections that others miss. Our brains, he explains, are not naturally designed for this. We evolved to notice the rustling in the bushes that might be a tiger. We did not evolve to sense the gradual thinning of the ozone layer or the complex feedback loops that create a traffic jam. These systems are largely invisible to our bottom-up, survival-oriented brain. Goleman introduces us to a man named Mau Pialug, the last practitioner of the ancient Polynesian art of wayfinding. Mau could navigate a canoe across thousands of miles of open ocean, from one tiny island to another, using only his knowledge of the natural world. He read the stars, the ocean swells, the flight patterns of birds, and the temperature of the water as if they were a GPS screen. He held in his mind a complex mental model of the entire Pacific Ocean system. His outer focus was so refined that it seems almost superhuman to us today. But for most of us, this kind of systems awareness is a lost art. We suffer from what Goleman calls system blindness. We see events, but we don't see the underlying structures that cause them. We blame the traffic jam on the other drivers, not the flawed design of the highway system and urban sprawl. This blindness becomes incredibly dangerous when we're dealing with what experts call super wicked problems, like global climate change. It's a threat that is odorless, tasteless, and invisible. Our amygdala, our brain's threat detector, doesn't fire. The danger feels abstract and far away, so we fail to act with the urgency it requires. This is where great leadership comes in. Goleman argues that the most effective leaders are masters of this outer focus. They are systems thinkers. They don't just solve the problem of the day, they see how that problem connects to a larger web of forces. When Steve Jobs returned to a floundering Apple in 1997, he saw a company drowning in a sea of products. His strategy was brutally simple: focus. He cut the product line down to just 4 items. In doing so, he saw the larger system of what customers actually wanted, simplicity and elegance, and directed the entire organization's attention toward that single point. In contrast, the leaders at Research in Motion, the maker of the BlackBerry, were brilliant at what they did. They had perfected their own little system of secure emails and long battery life. But they were so inwardly focused that they missed the massive systemic shift happening all around them, the rise of the iPhone, touchscreens, and the app economy. Their lack of outer focus led to their downfall. So how do we get better at all of this? How do we strengthen these three muscles of attention? This is where Goleman introduces the concept of smart practice. He dismantles the popular myth of the 10,000-hour rule, the idea that just putting in the hours is enough to achieve mastery. If you're a bad golfer, he says, practicing your flawed swing for 10,000 hours will just make you a very experienced bad golfer. The secret isn't just practice, it's deliberate practice. This involves full concentration, a clear goal for what you're trying to improve, and, crucially, a feedback loop. This is why elite athletes have coaches and why dancers practice in front of mirrors. They are constantly getting feedback, spotting errors, and making tiny adjustments. This kind of smart practice is like a workout for the brain. The fundamental exercise, Goleman suggests, is a form of attention training that has been practiced for thousands of years, mindfulness meditation. The instruction is simple: pay attention to your breath. When your mind wanders, and it will, gently notice that it has wandered, and bring it back to your breath. That's it. That simple act of noticing your mind has drifted and then redirecting it is a single rep in the mental gym. Every time you do it, you are strengthening the top-down, executive circuits of your brain. You're building the muscle of meta-awareness, the ability to pay attention to your own attention. Goleman shows us how this is being applied in the real world. He takes us to a school in Spanish Harlem, where second graders lie on the floor with breathing buddies, small stuffed animals, on their bellies. As they breathe in and out, they watch their buddies rise and fall. This simple game is a powerful first lesson in calming their minds and focusing their attention. In schools using these techniques, classroom disruptions go down and test scores go up. He also describes the stoplight exercise taught to kids. When they feel themselves getting angry or upset, they are taught to imagine a stoplight. Red light, stop, calm down, and take a deep breath. Yellow light, think of some possible solutions to the problem. Green light, try out the best one. This simple tool is a brilliant way to teach children how to shift from a bottom-up emotional hijack to a top-down, thoughtful response. Goleman believes these skills are so fundamental that they should be a part of every child's education. A child's level of self-control is a more powerful predictor of their future financial success and health than their IQ or their family's wealth. By teaching them the art of focus, we are giving them the single most important tool for a successful life. Ultimately, Goleman brings it all together in the figure of the well-focused leader. The best leaders aren't just brilliant strategists or charismatic speakers. They are the ones who can fluidly balance all three kinds of focus. They have the inner focus to know their values and stay true to their vision. They have the other focus to listen, to empathize, and to inspire their teams. And they have the outer focus to understand the complex systems they operate in and to anticipate the challenges of the future. They are, in a word, wise. And their wisdom comes not from what they know, but from how they pay attention. Commentary. As we step back and look at the big picture Daniel Goleman has painted for us, one idea stands out with incredible clarity: focus is not a single skill. It's a hidden trilogy of skills that quietly work together to shape the quality of our lives. It's the silent engine running beneath our self-control, our relationships, and our understanding of the world. What I find most powerful about this book is how it reframes something we think we understand, paying attention, and reveals it to be the very foundation of a well-lived life. We often think of focus in terms of productivity, of getting things done. And it is that. But Goleman shows us it's so much more. Inner focus is the root of integrity. Other focus is the root of compassion. And outer focus is the root of wisdom. In a world that seems designed to splinter our attention into 1,000 tiny fragments, Goleman's message feels more urgent than ever. He's not just diagnosing a problem, he's offering a practical, hopeful path forward. The idea that attention is like a muscle, that it can be trained and strengthened through practice, is incredibly empowering. It means that we are not helpless victims of our distracted minds. We can, with intention and effort, become the masters of our own awareness. The lessons from the marshmallow test and the Dunedin study in New Zealand are profound. They should be required reading for every parent, every teacher, every leader. The fact that a child's ability for self-regulation is a stronger predictor of their life success than their IQ is a revolutionary idea. It suggests that we may be focusing on the wrong things in our education system. Perhaps teaching our children how to manage their attention is just as important, if not more so, than teaching them algebra. So, how can you start applying these ideas to your own life, right now? It can feel overwhelming, but Goleman's approach is all about small, consistent efforts. Here are 3 simple actions you can take today. First, just practice noticing. The first step in strengthening your focus is simply becoming aware of when you've lost it. As you go about your day, try to catch your mind when it wanders. When you're supposed to be reading but you're actually thinking about your weekend plans, just make a gentle mental note, wandering. That's it. You don't need to judge yourself. That simple act of meta-awareness is the first and most important rep in your mental workout. Second, try a 1-minute focus session. You don't need to sit on a cushion for an hour. Just set a timer on your phone for 60 seconds. Close your eyes, and for that 1 minute, do nothing but pay attention to the feeling of your breath coming in and going out. Your mind will wander, even in that short time. When it does, just gently guide it back. This tiny practice, done once a day, will begin to strengthen those crucial top-down neural circuits. And third, when you face a decision, big or small, ask yourself the 3 questions that the Dalai Lama proposes at the very end of the book. These questions are a beautiful way to practice the triple focus. Ask yourself: 1. Is this for me, or for others? This cultivates other focus. 2. Is it for the benefit of the few, or the many? This cultivates outer focus. 3. Is it for now, or for the future? This cultivates a long-term outer focus. These questions shift your perspective from a narrow, self-centered view to a wider, wiser, and more compassionate one. They are a powerful tool for aligning your actions with your deepest values. That was a summary of Focus, The Hidden Driver of Excellence by Daniel Goleman. We've touched on the core ideas today, but I'll be honest with you, a summary is like looking at a travel brochure. The real journey, the real transformation, happens when you visit the destination yourself. The book is filled with stories, studies, and nuances that we just couldn't cover. This summary is meant to be a map, to show you if this is a journey worth taking. If any of the ideas we've explored today, the battle in your brain, the power of empathy, the secret to self-control, have sparked something in you, I encourage you to pick up a copy. Reading it isn't just about learning new information, it's about beginning the practice of seeing your own mind, and the world, with a new clarity. The link to the book is in the description below. Also, if you found this journey valuable and want to continue exploring the ideas in the world's most impactful books, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It lets us know we're on the right track and ensures you won't miss our next deep dive into the billionaire's bookshelf. Let's keep learning and growing together.